The NFL drafts this week, and soon you're going to be on the clock in your rookie drafts. And some of you guys are going to be drafted in the middle of the first round. Today, we're going to be looking at the 107 pick, that range of value. We're going to look at trades. We're going to look at calculators, ADP, rankings, looking at the players in that range of value. So if you want to trade out, you can. If you want to use those players to trade back in, you can. If you want to move around, do whatever. But we're going to give you some ideas today, and today it's going to be idea-based to help you get those trades done if you don't like or if you really like what's there on the board. Before we dig in, though, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're looking at Dynasty trades damn near every day. We're also looking at these rookies, doing player evaluations, looking at how they should be valued. Click that button, stop missing out. But looking at Dynasty ADP for the rookies, looking at the players in that range, and it's not about the players really, but it's about the picks. But again, we got a good cast of characters here to draft, and that's a good sign that we're looking at a good rookie class here in the middle of the first round. But going to the trade calculator here, and players in that range for the 107, Rashee Rice, Rome Odunze, Christian McCaffrey, James Cook here, and this is per Fantasy Calc, because I had some issues with some of the other websites last night. 107 for those players, but we're going to talk about some others. Going over to Player Profiler, looking at the rankings in ADP here, looking at how these players are being ranked in mixed with the veterans and the players around that, from top to bottom, depending on how you want to stretch it, who you want to add with, and what else to get to where you need to be. But around that 107, middle of the first round range, Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin, James Cook. You got Kyren Williams, Chase Brown. You got Khalil Shakur if you want to add something to it. Jameson Williams is an interesting prospect. Really depends on what's there on the board. Kenneth Walker we're seeing dealt a lot in trades, 107, 106, 105. Jalen Waddle has been very trendy in trades. So hasn't DJ Moore. We're seeing a lot in these videos when we're doing them. Brandon Ayuk's been very fluid. Kyren Williams has been very fluid this offseason when we're looking through all these trades. So you got some options, and you want options. You want a basket of players, and we're looking at trades today. I'm not going to tell you whether I agree or not, but really I'm going to talk about the process. So it's in a vacuum of other players that are very comparable in that situation, because we're looking at a basket of players today of what you could potentially be doing here. Going over to DLF, looking at their ADP, very similar. Josh Jacobs, Chris Olave, Jalen Hurts, DJ Moore, Tyrone Tracy, Chris Godwin. Some of these guys are cheaper than the pick. Some of these guys are a little more expensive than the pick. Sometimes you want to punch up. Sometimes you just want out and punch out to get your guy. Alvin Kamara is more like an early second, but maybe you just want to get that production. That's on you, what you want to do. Tyreek Hill's in there. Again, the rankings are stretched out to different proportions, but you got some options here of top-end players, guys to shoot your shot on, and we're going to look at actual trades too. Going over to Keep Trade Cut and their rankings. In the same areas like guys being drafted in the 107, their thing's a little thicker, so I can't get as many players in, but you're seeing some similar names like Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave. You're also seeing Kenneth Walker there again, DJ Moore there again, Josh Jacobs. And then still, as we stretch it out a little bit more, Joe Mixon's more like an early second, mid-second type of value, late first. But still, if you want production and you're not able to get trades done, maybe you go back a bit in value. You got Ricky Pearsall there, Brandon Ayuk, Chris Godwin. Some of these guys are a little bit lighter in value, but I stretched it out a bit so you can see other options just in case you want to add to them, or if you want to just take the hit on value so you can get your production. Going to their trade calculator for the 107, looking at the suggested players, Devonta Smith, James Cook. So one thing you can definitely say, you can get a productive player that's also a younger dynasty asset, a guy like James Cook, if you're just looking at the player straight up. Contract-wise, we get it. Might not be a bill for long. Maybe if he gets re-signed for a longer deal. Devonta Smith has been a staple in Dynasty, a guy that's going to be around for a little bit longer. He's going to have a longer career. He's been productive. That being said, 107 can get you a player that can be productive, or maybe you chase older production, and we're going to be looking at some of the other trades like this one. You're trying to move up to the 101, you got the 107, and you're adding something to it. You're going to add a productive player probably and another pick. That's more likely what's going to happen, and it's going to cost a lot for the 101. In some cases, more than that. Some cases, more than that. The 101's very expensive to get. In some cases, I believe you're going to pay a little bit more than that. In some cases, that's might be the ballpark for you, depending on your league. Also, Superflex, Baker Mayfield in the middle of the first round. 104, 105, 106, 107. We're seeing him be very fluid. Other quarterbacks in his range, maybe like a Tua, maybe like a Jared Goff, we're seeing get traded in this range. But still, we're seeing Baker Mayfield get traded a lot. I'll preface this again. Trading quarterbacks in Superflex is very hard to do, because once the league's established, they're playing with veteran Superflex players, they're not going to give up their quarterbacks. But some leagues are more fluid than others. DeAndre Swift for the 107. Now, this is a trade I do not suggest, but it's also a storyline because there's some similar trades to this. Once we get to the 107, 108, 109, things are getting more liquid in the trade streets. So the 107 and later might be a little bit more obtainable depending on your league. A lot of leagues, no. But there are more trades like this than compared to the 106, 105, 104. And that is a trend I saw. Not saying it's possible in your league, but if I see it, I got to throw it out there to be transparent. 107 Dubs getting Drake London. Using your pick and a little something more to get that player that's expensive. Now, that could be more than Romeo Dubs. In a lot of cases for Drake London, it is. But still, that idea of getting that expensive player like a Drake London or in that range, it could be a running back. 107, maybe another first, maybe a second, a couple seconds, and a player. Something for that player. Prospect that manager likes, or you see a gaping need for the RB3, RB2, or something like that. You add to the first plus some picks and maybe another prospect. Maybe that gets it done for you, depending on how much that other side likes this rookie draft class or what's on the board. Maybe a player falls and you use that as your opportunity to strike and get a veteran that you actually like. And maybe you don't like that player that much that fell, or maybe you want the production now and you don't want to wait for that rookie to have that developmental period, or you just want to get out because you don't like rookies. Again, 107 for a good wide receiver that's going to be productive in the league. Maybe not a top-end producer or the guy that's going to be a top wide receiver in the top 12, top 10 for the next 5 years, but you know he's going to be good. Know that's going to hold dynasty value. Know he's going to at least tread water a little bit more in the dynasty ADP rankings calculators, like a Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. I'm just trying to broadly name this type of wide receiver. A wide receiver that can get you some production, some top-end weeks, some low-end weeks, but hold dynasty value. And you can definitely say that about Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, plus a few others. Maybe like a Rashee Rice or something like that with your middle of the first round pick. Now you're looking at some other trades here. 107, Michael Pittman, George Pickens for CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, very expensive. And I do not see this trade getting done in most leagues. I think you will have to add more to that and maybe have other players. But as an idea, you're 107 plus two other good assets, or maybe a little bit more, trying to get that stud that you want. Maybe that's an offer you may want to try. Maybe you do and just get told no. Maybe, but that's another idea. I would suggest better assets along with your 107, but two other top assets trying to get to a Lamb or a top tier asset. Probably two firsts and maybe two prospects that are pretty good. Maybe something like that, but that's another idea. 107 plus another good wide receiver, or maybe something with it. An older wide receiver with production. A cheaper asset that's productive, a cheaper running back that's an okay handcuff, but he's really down there in the rankings, like RB 50, 60, 70 range, plus Brandon Ayuk, Rashi Rice, something like that, in that range of value of the ranking somewhere. Not going one for one with names, whatever you want to throw in there in that range, go ahead. 107 for an older, productive running back. So you're going to take a little hit in value here. But if you really don't like the rookie, or if you really just want to get that production for the now, just go with Joe Mixon or a player like that of that value and just take the hit on value. But that's just a suggestion. That's something you don't have to do if you don't want. But if you're on the clock, you don't like what's there, you can't trade back to the early second or whatever, maybe that's an idea for you. 107 for a Juwan Jennings. This is another instance where you're seeing the 107 be more fluid. And Joe Mixon, Juwan Jennings, those are more clues telling us that the 107, 108, 109 is just more tradable right now for production. And if you want to get production, or if you want to trade your production to get to this pick, you got a chance. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but you got a chance. Swift, Mixon, Jennings, so far when we're looking at these trades, 107 for like a Terry McLaurin and a third. You can get a wide receiver like that, kind of like the other wide receivers we talked about. A little bit older production, but a wide receiver that's going to hold dynasty value and be productive at the same time. Something that you can really hang your hat on, especially if you do not like this wide receiver class. You can go after Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, very good running back prospect. A little bit older right now. But again, you're getting good production out of him. You might have some injury weeks, but still, you know what you're going to get when you get Jonathan Taylor. On top of that, Josh Jacobs. Same thing with Mixon. Same thing with Swift. Same thing with Jennings. You're seeing this pick be a little bit more fluid compared to what we covered in the other videos. You're seeing that trend, and I want to point that out. Just kick the tires, see what happens. Maybe something happens when you're on the clock. I don't see it happening in a lot of leagues, but I'm also seeing it happen more than with other picks. And as you get deeper into that first round, you should start seeing it happen a little bit more. But the 107 seems to be that tipping point for a lot of managers saying, what the heck? What the heck? Let's get that production now. Josh Jacobs, older asset, getting production is an idea for you. Not just a suggestion, just an idea for you to look at. But again, you're going to be taking a little hit on value. Another thing you can do is use your 107. I don't like Cole Kmet, but couple players here that's older, down on the rankings, that are cheaper, that can get you production for the now. Alvin Kamara is like the perfect running back for that. Like, you know it's for the now, but you know there's potential for good production in 2025. Another player like that with him, plus maybe a cheap pick. Maybe something like that. Again, I'm just giving you ideas for what to do with the pick. That way, when you're on the clock, you don't like what's there. You want ideas of what to do, and you can't reach out to anybody for ideas. It got them here with this video series. Or maybe you want to trade back up. Or maybe you want to trade up from the 205 to the 104, 105, 107. You see the basket of players in this area. You can use that if you want, or if you don't like one of those players and you got them and you want to move out or move into the draft, there you go. There you go. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.